really, obviously we didn't know each other, trained a little, got to know each other, and this was a long time before he was in the UFC. We were saying this the other day, like Elmo Civic Center, and I was like 18, and went there, saw the fight, and I was just getting involved. And I remember it was one of my kind of inspirations in the art back then, going and training. And then when I got a chance to roll with him the first time and be a part of his journey, it was such an honor. Now we're really good friends, and it's like, I make a lot of analogies about how martial arts relates to our lives, because it's a lot of really hard training and then a few really great moments. Because like Andrew fought the UFC, it was months and months of really hard, uneventful, not very exciting training, followed by these great moments together. Today is another one of those moments. I'm super proud and honored to present Yves, new Black Belt. Yeah!
Travis is the greatest jiu-jitsu coach I've had. No garbage. I've told a lot of people that come here, everybody I know, anytime they ask me for training in Houston, it's Travis. I try to get Todd came to me, and I'm like, you got to Travis. Thank you guys. This is not something I was expecting, so I feel like I won an Emmy and I wasn't even on the board. But I really appreciate Travis and all of you guys for training with me over the years.
I'm here with Yves Edwards, aka Thugjitsu. Yves, you had a super busy, exciting weekend. You became a grandfather and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt, all in a matter of a couple of days. How's that sound to you? Good or old?
How does it sound? It sounds like a lot. It happened within like 48 hours, so that was like, one of them was expected and one was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
I expected my granddaughter to come while I was here. That's why I came. I did not expect to get my black belt, and it was like the icing on the cake.
So you've been in like the fight world for longer than most current fighters have been training. And I remember, like, you were fighting when I was just getting started. I told this story the other day during your promotion. And that was a time when it wasn't really mixed martial arts the way we know it today. We knew it wasn't, what was that? It was NHB. Yeah, it had a totally different acronym going for it. And it was kind of beyond like the Horace Gracie versus karate days, but it wasn't where it is today. Where today people have a specific regimen. They know, they have to get in the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, the Muay Thai, and then there are specialists, and it's really evolved. And you kind of lived through and competed through this change. So what was that like to be a part of the evolution of it? And a lot of people would say a big contributor to the evolution of it, because your style really unified some of these concepts in those earlier days of the UFC. What was that like?
That's a really elaborate way to say that you're old.
Everything about this interview is me making grandpa jokes, really. That's all it is. But I want to be nice so people don't catch on to that.
So now they have the theme, but still. That transition, that change, it was definitely something. It was a learning experience, Starting out, I started out with Muay Thai, I started out with Jiu-Jitsu, and, I did Jeet Kune Do and did some Kali and a bunch of other stuff because, you wanted to learn everything about fighting, especially coming up in the era that I grew up in, not the more the martial arts, mixed martial arts turned into, but as a kid growing up watching Bruce Lee and watching Kung Fu movies and just always thinking martial arts was like, it's an amazing thing. And when that first UFC came out, expected to see a lot of fights with like exchanges of striking and none of it was like that. It was it was like barroom brawls for the most part. Guys grabbing each other, and it was like
Hair pulling.
hair pulling and nut punching and just a lot of people ended up on the ground a lot and not really knowing what they were doing, but they knew better than I did as a viewer, and I had no idea what was going on the ground. Training traditional kung fu, Jason DeLucia was in the first UFC,
Yep.
and we trained the same style of traditional kung fu, praying mantis. And when he came out for his fight, I was like, yeah, now we're gonna see some good martial arts. And you know, he did a wheel kick, and I'm like, yeah. Then he threw another like side kick or something. I'm like, yeah. And then the guy rushed him, and then he defended a takedown, and he got on the guy's back, and I'm like, what's going on? And he hits this choke, and I'm like, I guess that stuff must really be what you need to know. It really works.
It seems logical, but we don't put it together. Like, it seems logical, like, if you get choked, you're going to die. So, you know, you ought to know how to defend that, but that was really the thought. I remember watching the first UFCs and not thinking somebody's about to get choked or bent up. It's like, what kind of traditional moves are about to go down?
Yeah, you're gonna see a death touch.
Yeah.
But now it's none of that, and you know, I started learning jiu-jitsu. I first started learning grappling from the Robert Bussey Warrior International system. Steve Jenner.
That's awesome.
Started.
UFC champ.
He was a UFC champ, so I had some championship lineage in my hierarchy of martial arts. I started with that, learned the basics on like an armbar or choke, and not really any concepts that would hold up now in the world of jiu-jitsu, but at the time, at least you understood what was going on and how to apply some of the techniques. And
Well, at that time, if you knew almost anything and they didn't,
right,
that was a shutout.
yeah, definitely. I mean, but what's crazy about that when I think about it, at that time, even training, you know or knew about as much as a hardcore fan who does not actually train.
Right.
Yeah. Like, so they have no training, they have they've drilled
But they
nothing.
can witness, yeah, they can see it.
But they can see it, and they can actually probably pull it off on somebody who's just never watched the sport before and is as athletic as they are.
Well, I remember that's like how I got started with it. Like a friend of mine, he rented the UFCs, and there was nowhere to really train grappling. So it was like, hey, let's wrestle each other and try to mimic some of these moves, as bad as they were back then. But I mean, that's what got a lot of us into it, was witnessing that and being exposed to something that was very different than our like action movie star heroes that we had growing up.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, well, that changes my entire worldview of what fighting and self-defense is. I think I might need to learn how to choke people and do this thing.
And so we learned it.
Yeah.
And man, over the years, you just start figuring out. Because when I started, it was with this traditional martial arts, moved into some of the grappling. I love kickboxing and striking. I watched everything I possibly could. And I don't know, there's something about being passionate about it that kind of helps you to learn through osmosis, through just viewing, but also being in the gym and learning what some of the principles are, you know, being in an academy a couple times a week. Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, I was a foreigner moving to America. I had to work to get paperwork done properly so I could actually have a job in America. When I got my first job, you know, the first 2-week pay period, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
And then the second 2-week pay period, the first thing I did with my check was go and sign up to a gym that had Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, you know, submission grappling. And I started training with Tim Mosel back then, and started fighting about, I don't know, like 6 months later, like first amateur fight.
So not very long.
Yeah, not very long, not much, not very far into it, and fell in love with it the first time. You know, the first time competing, I got my butt kicked for like, it was a 20-minute match, and I literally got my ass kicked for like 18 minutes.
Yeah.
And the other 2 minutes was just like figuring out what was going on.
Right.
So like, I won none of it, but I was, what, 19 or 20, and I fought a man who was like 35,
Right.
who was a pilot, and he flew all around the country and he went into all these different gyms. And so
Just to fight people?
just to learn
Just to beat up
and train.
18-year-olds and leave?
Yeah. He went in and picked up all these skills from all these different jiu-jitsu places, you know, and then he came and there was a tournament here called the Party Slam. And
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that tournament, and that's where I got beat up. He's a coach now. He's coached a lot of guys. He's coached Rashad Evans, and he was a coach at Jackson's. He coaches Claudio Gadelia, and his name is Chris Luttrell. I ran into him a couple times, and
That was your first opponent.
that was my very first opponent.
That's a good story.
Ever. I ran into him a couple times and took a picture with him at the Tachi Palace fights. He was cornering some guys there, so we got to catch up a bit. And it's funny because now I am 42 and he's like nearly 60.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So like he's still, of course he's gonna always be older than me, but like he's like it shows now.
Does he remember that and kind of like followed you throughout your career?
He did,
Yeah.
he did, and he does, and he did. The fight itself was kind of awesome. If you run into anybody from Houston that was there at the time, he had me in a Kimura for like 18 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. And he had my hand behind my head for most of that time.
Yeah.
And I was refusing to tap. I was trying to
You're
figure
like
out.
Elio Gracie back in the day, just
Yeah.
let it break.
Yeah. And I believe it was this arm, and I believe that's why my shoulder hurts today.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. You were complaining about that 2 days ago.
But you know, coming up through all of that and learning, and part of it was learning what parts of mixed martial arts actually are effective and apply.
Mhm.
Because back then everybody did some of everything. I mean, you remember the Dog Brothers? Those
Yeah.
guys that did stick fighting and whatnot.
Yeah.
They used to have these matches out in parks where they did stick fighting with each other.
And grappling.
And grappling.
Yeah.
And it's really weird, but I mean, some practicality to it in the fact that if you get in a fight in the street, then yeah, you can use weapons. There's no rules.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, why are we gonna put on hockey gloves and hit each other with sticks?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of weird. But you know, doing all of those things, you kind of learn what to do and what not to do. My style was not something that I really tried to develop. It just kind of came from learning what to shave off and what not to. And eventually I started to understand and value the techniques of wrestling and how important that is, and understand how that dictates so much of the game.